I think I was introduced yesterday. Again, Manuel Liebeke, Department of Metabolomics at the Agriculture Faculty, and new professor since April in Kiel.
Yeah, Remco Stam. I've been here a year now. I'm also at the agricultural faculty and I'm a phytopathologist, so I study plant diseases. And I already noticed that plants are still underrepresented in Kiel Life Science, so that's my starting point here.
I'm Katja Dierking. I work at the Department of Evolutionary Ecology and Genetics at Kiel University, and I'm a PI within the SFB of Meta-Organism Research.
I'm Olivia Roth. I'm professor for marine evolutionary biology at the Zoological Institute.
Hi, my name is Stéphanie Hornburg, and I'm a junior professor for the intestinal tract microbiome of livestock. So it's a really long name, but I love doing microbiome in livestock. That's what you need to know. I'm from the agricultural faculty as well, and I think animals are still underrepresented as well.
Yes. Hello, my name is Harald Gruber-Vodicka. I'm a professor for marine symbiosis at the Zoological Institute, and I think also marine systems are kind of underrepresented.
I'm Malte Rühlemann. I'm early career researcher and incoming PI of the new CSC funding phase. So very, very early in my career, and happy to be here.
Yeah, and so I'm Mathieu Groussin, professor at the Institute of Clinical Molecular Biology. My title is Medical Bioinformatics, but most of my work is focused on the microbiome. And I also think that humans are underrepresented in KLS.
Discussion done. Now what? Maybe I can start, because we were invited to be on the podium and discuss the future of KLS. And then I kind of started an initiative to write an email and said, what should we actually discuss? And if you ask a few scientists and you ask one question, you get many different answers. And we were actually not sure what we wanted to discuss during this podium discussion. And we got some questions from the office, which were then kind of different to the questions we expected. So we wanted to talk about kind of, if I could see science-wise, what are the future things we need in KLS? Are there some major gaps which we may need to fill? Is there some recruitments we may need to do? How we do better collaboration, etc. And the questions we got from the KLS office were more into the future of how can we promote KLS, all those things. So it's pretty quite open. I think we can discuss both maybe, because I think it goes hand in hand to have also more people attracting to KLS, comes also with how we are seen from the external world. And I think maybe it's a question, who visited the KLS website recently? So it's the Greifswald people. They informed themselves, and the Kansas people. So do you feel this was represented what you kind of saw here in the last 2 days? Kind of possible. But what I was missing, I also checked it recently, I was missing who is member of KLS. So what are the major topics we are focusing on? And I think that's something, that first point of information is very crucial, and it's something we need to improve, to see outside that if people talk about Kiel, that maybe in a second sentence there's Kiel Life Science, that what is that? And I think that's not yet completely clear. Also, being new to Kiel, it was not clear to me what this kind of consortium is doing and what are the possibilities within KLS. And then there are 3 other priority points. What's the difference to them? And I think that needs to be in future a little bit sharpened and giving more information, at least on the website. I think social media is something, as a young faculty, we all like, but it's also constantly changing. So that's something we need to see what to discuss.
I think I can just concur with this. Like, when I came here last year, I just got this letter from Tomasz, like, you can pay 700 euros and you can join KLS. And people said, do it. But I have no idea what to expect back then. And it's still, I think, now I'm starting to see how this works as a network platform. But it's not very clear to people from the outside. And I think the university is getting more and more structures and things and excellence initiatives and I don't know what. But what does the Kiel Life Science then do? And how is it different from an excellence initiative that we start? How is it different from the sub-programs that we have within Kiel Life Science? For people from outside, I don't know whether they know that the plant center is something within KLS. And this kind of thing is just like, it starts to feel like we're talking too much and not doing enough science. Let's put it like this. We're just making structures and structures and structures, but what is the actual science that's going on? And this is somehow, bothering me a bit.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Remco, because I think we have extremely strong collaborative research initiatives in KLS, but what we are lacking somewhat is the connection between them. And I think this is what KLS is there for. And I think we could strengthen this. And for me, as a rather new PI, I would not call me young, but that's whatever early career researchers know. And so for me, it's not that easy to come in such a room, and then there are many silverbacks in here. And as a young one, you potentially a bit like, even I'm then a bit shy to approach people that could be helpful for me. So what I would actually like to suggest is a new format that we could adopt from like online dating, so to say, so that we integrate different styles of talking, of communication to each other. And one format that I often offer in students' classes with smaller groups, though, is speed dating, so that we actually sit on tables and then other people take turns. And then we are forced to talk to each other one by one for 3 minutes. And I think like this, we could really identify topics that are important for many of us, and where we dare to start to speak about it. And I think this could definitely foster very interesting collaborations within KLS.
I would just add up to that, because you also ask how can we improve internal communication in KLS. And often I realize that in a new group with only a few people, we sometimes have questions that people normally discuss on the floor between offices during coffee break. We don't have that if we are across faculties, across campus. So maybe we can also add this like online discussion in a surrounding where we can actually ask questions on a quick daily basis, like, hey, is there someone who knows this buffer, how to do that, whatever. And I think that would actually speed up things very well, or maybe get tiny little bits of connections and projects that don't need a proper proposal and collaboration and all of that stuff. So, this discussion, if we get bigger and bigger, it needs to have a platform to bring questions together, not only the research, but also the tiny little daily business things.
I also thought about how to even foster even more interactions within KLS. And I think all the workshops, like the one Mathieu presented today, for example, they are, of course, great platforms to get to know each other and to foster interactions between the different faculties. But maybe we could also start a grant within KLS to really support projects that are then coming out of these workshops. So collaborations that come out of the workshops, inter-faculty collaborations that then could apply for money for a joint project. So that may be one idea to foster this even more, and to make sure that the output of the workshops are really then translated into an actual project.
I guess my intervention will react to Remco's comment about creating structures where we talk, and we can mention the Kiel Life Science centers. Now the fourth is hopefully going to be approved, and maybe something that would be really helpful is to have better metrics and criteria in order to judge how much KLS and its different structures contributed to the scientific success of the community, which would help for the communication part of KLS, showing how important it is, but I would also we would probably, as young scientists here, need to get feedback and input from more senior scientists, such as you, Thomas, or you, Inrik, on how, for instance, the Kiel Evolution Center contributed to the success of the Trans-Evo RTG or the success of the CRC. Not necessarily trying to answer the question of would these structures have existed without the Kiel Evolution Center, but more about how much and to what aspects, on what aspects exactly the Kiel Evolution Center contributed to the success and scientific outcome of our community. And if we know better about this, that would probably address Remco's point, and we could leverage on that moving forward in order to really focus on what will lead us to success. If someone can. Is that okay? Yeah.
Maybe we just leave them at the moment.
As another newcomer to KLS and to the CRU in general, I think the KLS is a perfect platform, but has not yet implemented any kind of onboarding for new people. That you kind of mentioned, these connections to more established labs, to more established resources, to more established structures that we have. And I think that KLS could be this welcoming center for its resources that then also helps them find their way in setting up collaborations, setting up workshops, setting up any kind of initiatives that you're very hesitant, like Olivia said in the beginning, to actually take over because you feel, oh, you're just a newcomer that comes in that doesn't have an understanding of how it works.
Yeah, and I think we can also already imprint the younger generation. So it could be a possibility because we always have almost yearly retreats in all kind of funding initiatives. And to say like every second or every third year, we do a joint KLS retreat for the PhD students and for the postdocs. I know it will be a massive group of people, but this would also like imprint them very early on. What is KLS and what are we standing for?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, sorry. I mean, I hear all of that, and even though I'm probably the youngest in career advancement, I've been around for several years and nurtured in the CRC, and I just wanted to start off on a more positive note. It seems like we got a lot to complain about and many ideas what things might be better, but I think it's great how KLS actually brings together different disciplines and technologies and platforms, and how this actually becomes visible across faculties, because me working mostly on human microbiome data, and then I'm coming here and also in the CRC seeing people working on plant microbiome and other animal microbiomes. And I think it's just fantastic that we have this connection within KLS, which of course can be strengthened and can be stronger and can be more collaborative, and which would be great. But I think it's also fantastic to mention what we already have here and how great this can be. Although I agree with many of the things that were said here earlier.
Maybe one point what Mathieu said, kind of asking the kind of older generation of people in KLS, is also to reach out and think about maybe a mentorship program that like new professors, that they are introduced, that they have a contact point and get to know all these kind of little things you need to know how Kiel is run and how KLS is functioning. I think that would be useful. Plus thinking about that mentorship also towards the postdocs and PhD students, that there is a possibility of having a network of mentees which are available on different topics and possibilities to really make sure that also the talent we raise maybe stays in Kiel, goes away for a while, but then comes back, because realizing how good KLS is to keep people here and kind of bring them up within our rows. I think that is important. Having a mentorship program, I think that would be, in my opinion, quite useful.
I mean, I agree with you partially, because I also have to think that we have to make sure that it's not overloaded. So our time is very, very limited. And when we now start with mentorship programs here and there, these are elements that we often have already integrated. For example, in PMI, I'm sure you have something like this. We have it in the CRC, we have it in RTG Transivo. And I think we should not go for more structures, but rather use them in a better way, in a more efficient way, because our timescales are all totally overloaded, I think. This was a dead end.
No, but that was my point, right? So what is KLS really? What should something like KLS do in terms of practical things? Should KLS also be the thing that provides the workshops, or should that actually be in the substructures? And that's, to me, not always clear. And you can grow everything, but then we won't be able to do any work because we're still busy filling paperwork for Frau Jonsen. So there are these things that you need to set somehow, and I do not know how to set this. Like, does it make more sense to hollow out KLS and say this is an overarching structure, but anything that we organize as a workshop would fit in any of the very specific project-related sub-projects? Or would it actually be nice to do the opposite? I don't know. This is something that we can actually discuss here. Right? So is KLS purely administrative, purely there as a shape, or should it actually be one of those things that provides money for research projects? I would now actually say maybe it shouldn't. Someone needs to be the devil's advocate here. I think it shouldn't. You say?
I think it should be clear. Yeah, I think I agree. So should it or should it not? Potentially it shouldn't. But if it does, then it has to become clear to everyone how it does provide money. And here, I mean, for example, me personally, I haven't understood the structure entirely. How, for example, a Kiel microbiome center, how you apply for something like this. Is it just a bunch of people? Oh, great, we are now plenty, and now we do a Kiel microbiome center, as we have a Kiel evolution center, by the way. Or is there some clear criteria of which you have to fulfill, or also to have a workshop that is supported by KLS? Potentially, this can all be read on the webpage, by the way. I don't know.
In answering Remco's comment or question, I think it should, but for a very specific objective. I think it should fund research. I think it is the right structure to fund research in life science, because we know that there are parts of our work in research that is critical for the success of research projects that are very hard to get funded. And for instance, we're talking about building resources. And usually the funding agencies are not so much interested in building resources, but are more interested in research questions, which kind of makes sense in a way. But to apply for getting your research question funded, you need to have pilot data, or you need to have some resources already in place in order to be strong and build a strong application. So I think that if KLS can be a funding body for interdisciplinary research project in the aim of building resources that will be useful for across faculties within KLS, in order to generate pilot data, this is the kind of structure that locally we need to be very strong in order to be more competitive in applications. And I don't know whether this should be at the level of CAU, whether this should be at another structure, but KLS could be one natural funding body for such resources.
So I totally agree. For me, KLS is the umbrella under which, like, all the other great funding initiatives we have in Kiel come together. And it would be great to have funding then for projects that reach out to the other initiatives. So what you said about the workshops that are rather focused, we have our workshops within the CSC, for example, but then KLS should be the umbrella, and then really funding projects, as you said, that then combine the different initiatives.
What I wonder is actually, where could all of this money come from? I don't know. However, maybe something to you as well. So the CAU as a whole actually started some kinds of funding like this. So to do pilot studies, to help early career researchers, stuff like that. So maybe in the meantime, when we get money for doing that in KLS, maybe we could set up something like a helping center, right? So something where you are told where to get funding at the university, where to get funding within the other priority centers, where to apply for stuff. Because I think also the younger careers researchers don't know all of that right away, right? Not everyone knows about everything. So maybe that would be also something to help people get funding. And maybe in the long term, KLS can provide some funding too. So maybe that's an answer to your remark as well.
I mean, what I think KLS shouldn't fund those bigger things, but should be the platform like it is today now, that we as young people, early career, sitting here together, that KLS gives us a platform to exchange our ideas and thinking forward in the next 10 years. It would be amazing if we have another 20 years anniversary and we can say, okay, based on this meeting, we came together, we saw our research and we thought, okay, this is a springboard to write a graduate school application, to write an SFB application. That should be what KLS is, to bring people together. And I think it's doing this already quite nicely, but I think having more kind of more of those events where we can sit together and brainstorm. I know time is limited for everyone, but I think that would be perfect to have a structured web page, a structured kind of list of what are the topics we're working on, that also, if there's maybe already an idea of somebody having a research idea but is missing certain points, but within KLS that missing capacity, expertise is there, and then you join forces and bring that via KLS together. And if there's some structure to help with the application and maybe funding for somebody who works on proofreading the applications or helping with administrative things, that would be wonderful, specifically for people in KLS.
Yeah, what would for me also be important is that KLS can have a very strong voice also towards the university president. I mean, for example, we have like here in this room or in KLS, highly talented really early career researchers, which most of us are not early career researchers, by the way. And they come with like ERC or Eminente funds. And I think if KLS could make something for them to promote them, because they also have reasons why they want to stay in Kiel. And I definitely think that that's the talent that we have here in the younger generation. And as KLS, I would really appreciate if they make the case strong towards the university president that we also want to keep those very important talents.
I fully agree, and I think that would be something that actually all of the excellence centers should implement, and that there should be some transparency about it, so that we have the option, for example, for an excellence center-based tenure track that is established, that where the excellence centers know, like you say, we have these talented people, they have generated output, they have generated massive input of third-party funding, still they don't have a perspective. And this could be within the levels of these organizations, that level of KLS, level of KMS, level of PMI, that they actually are able to identify and then with a certain tenure track, for example, procedure, stabilize these people and keep the excellence in Kiel.
Yeah, because like those are the talents that are attracted by other universities. So if you go to Munich with an ERC, you get immediately tenured. And here there's absolutely nothing happening for those with either it's ERC or Eminute and there are other funding bodies. But I really think that we should make that very clear that these people are important for us.
What I wonder in this context is actually, I mean, the university board has some kind of a vision, a goal where they want to see university, where they want to see our research, the research of KLS. And I think our president yesterday made it very clear that she wants this translational research. I mean, you said yesterday you're a basic researcher. That's not something you do by heart. However, I think it's also a very good strategy to actually keep people if we try to knot them to something that the university wants as a long-term goal. So maybe there could also be, I mean, that's very political thinking, but right, this is what we do as well. So maybe we can add up something to, I'm now switching topics a little bit, but maybe it's time to do that. So maybe it's time to add something on the health aspect, right? We heard so much about human health, and I know it's very important, and I don't want to, dismiss that. But on a global perspective, maybe there are some other topics that we actually need to work on. So I'm coming from the agricultural faculty, so agricultural systems, they feed the world, right? I mean, we cannot do not acknowledge that there are several other topics that we can have an impact on. So to draw attention to scientists that want to stay, I knew a lot of people that have a lot of passion about changing something in a global perspective. Maybe we can add an environment where they can actually do that. I would think that would be something helpful, right? So, and it's also, kind of in the way that we need to go anyway, right? We're in Schleswig-Holstein. What are people doing in Schleswig-Holstein? They are farmers, they are fishermen, right? I mean, there are some industry, but what is what they need, right? What is what they need? What can we provide to them? So this is, what I'm thinking about.
Well, maybe if I can connect to that, you just said two things that strike me. There are farmers, there are fishermen. So the farmers would be in the KLS and the fishermen would be in the KMS. And in part, I think that is very true. In part, it should not be like this because the farmers impact marine systems heavily, even though it's indirect. Fishermen impact health, and so these are two things that should go together. And this separation of these excellence foci leads to things that you come as a newcomer, and then you're pulled by one or you're pulled by the other, but you can't. Let's say, very positively be in both without generating some friction.
Do you think so?
Yes.
I have absolutely no problem before being in KLS and KMS, and I don't see any conflict in that. Because this is just, when we are talking about interdisciplinarity, transdisciplinarity, that's what we are. So we have different research interests, and at the end, we can also not expect from a university to have a structure that is really like serving it all. And when we have interest in two, so I mean, it's like with the excellence cluster initiatives, there I also don't see it as a problem to be in several of them as long as your profile matches it.
I think we're in a transition phase where now young people come in and it can become possible. But for several of these projects, for several of the excellence clusters, that was actually a big discussion. Can you be in both? Should you be in both? Should we actually differentiate between the two? So I think that ongoing discussion is valuable, and I hope that there will actually be more of trans excellence cluster, of bi or tri excellence cluster memberships that then actually also really foster integration across faculties on multiple levels.
But this has in earlier times never been a challenge to be member in several excellence classes, as long as they were, from that point onwards when they are funded. I think that's not such a challenge in my view, and that's what I was communicated from several people in this room.
Yeah, I think it's funny how we came from creating somehow hollow structures, or the danger of doing that, to lumping together structures or being part of all of them. And I mean, I guess that's somehow natural, and I think we are all somehow interested in doing this transdisciplinary research. And I really think we should not think in silos and see this as separate, but rather see them as interconnected somehow. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't strengthen also the subgroups like KLS, and I think KLS has a very important point here. And I mean, what the discussion boils down again is what has been shown today also by our colleagues from Greifswald today, right? So it's One Health, everything is somehow connected, and looking into human health as a like separate entity to everything else just doesn't work out. So we need all those different subgroups and expertises that we have in KLS and beyond to actually tackle those ideas. And well, me coming from human health studies somehow, I think that's one of the major things I also want to do in my career, to really bridge different things. And I hope we are getting to this point.
But isn't this the natural problem of everybody focusing on the same thing? I mean, maybe that's really critical. I understand everything what you say, but this conflicts between the different, centers like Kiel Life Science, and then you have the PEMA and whatever. They are all focusing on very similar topics. So they are interrelated. They are connected to each other, which is good. But the funding structure and the structure, how they are governed, that makes it difficult. And I think this is what you wanted to address as well. So what I wanted to also, propose with my initiative was that maybe we just find something different, something that is not everybody is doing, right? Whatever it is, I'm fine with that. But I think that a lot of these complications with the centers, with the platforms, is that a lot of people focus on the same thing, and that makes collaboration increasingly difficult at some point, even though it's fostering, but also it makes it difficult. So maybe figure something out that makes KLS very unique in specific ways. No, I made a dead end.
So I don't think that we need something. I mean, everyone brings in his or her subject, and I think we are very different in what we are doing. And all these research initiatives, they have very different aspects and angles. And I just had to realize, I was at an international conference recently in France, and I think we are extremely fortunate living in Germany. But first of all, living in Germany because of all the funding opportunities that we have. But second of all, living here in Kiel, because I had to realize this is not the normal thing, that we have so many different collaborative research initiatives, and that I'm very, very happy for those of you in this room who have initiated all of these research initiatives and have really done a massive effort that we as like young PIs have this unique opportunity to come at such a place where all these structures are already up and running, and we can really collect the low-hanging fruits currently. And of course, it's also our task to take it over at some point. Like at some point, Thomas Bosch, even though he's luckily staying for longer, but you might not be the one driving those things anymore. And then it's on us. And there, I think we have to identify what are the future subjects that we want to tackle, and I think this will be. I'm very much looking forward to this.
I also would not kind agree that we all focus on the same thing, and we are. Yeah, no, but I mean, just look at the CSC. So focusing on humans there is the exception. Yeah, I think that is what makes this so great, that we work on similar topics, but we have totally different foci within this big overarching topics.